Your fragile ego is bankrupting you. While you bleed cash pretending to be a wealthy CEO online, a man covered in raw sewage is quietly printing millions. Watch until the absolute end, because this disgusting hidden reality is your only true blueprint to absolute financial freedom. Let us be brutally honest for a single moment. Look down at your hands, and then look directly at your bank account, right now. Do the numbers on that screen reflect the flashy founder or CEO title you so proudly display on your social media profiles? How much of your blood, sweat, and hard-earned cash have you secretly incinerated on those glamorous online courses promising overnight riches? You know exactly what I am talking about. The sleepless nights spent grinding through videos that teach you how to build a million-dollar app, how to leverage crypto trades to multiply your portfolio tenfold, or how to curate a pristine personal brand for affiliate marketing and dropshipping. You drape yourself in tailored suits, rent out desks in ridiculously overpriced downtown co-working spaces, and routinely check in on Instagram with artisan coffees that cost as much as a blue-collar worker's daily lunch. You call yourself a hustler. You call yourself an entrepreneur. But underneath that carefully constructed digital facade, behind the aesthetic posts and the motivational quotes, is a suffocating anxiety. The bitter, unspoken truth is that you are likely not building a business at all. You are simply funding the lavish lifestyles of fake internet gurus, acting as a willing participant in a grand illusion that sells hollow dreams to desperate people craving a shortcut to the top. Before we tear down the rest of this toxic mirage and reconstruct your entire understanding of wealth, Money Glow Up 02 welcomes you to the only corner of the internet that dares to speak the ugly truth. If you are ready to shatter the matrix of fake success and discover where real generational wealth actually hides, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support is the engine that drives this channel, giving us the motivation to keep bringing you these deep, unfiltered financial blueprints. Do not get defensive. I am not standing on a pedestal to stroke a fragile ego or to mock your ambition. I am sitting here speaking to you as an older brother, as someone who walked blindly into that exact same death trap and paid the ultimate price. Roughly 10 years ago, I was a carbon copy of you. I was entirely consumed by the delusional hustle culture. A few friends and I launched what we believed was a revolutionary tech startup. We were utterly convinced we were going to disrupt the world with some convoluted application integrating artificial intelligence and blockchain, despite the fact that none of us could articulate how it would actually generate a single dollar of real-world profit. We attended every networking event in the city. We handed out thick, premium textured business cards, pitched to anyone who would listen using the most vibrant, professionally designed slide decks, and lived on a diet of instant ramen and energy drinks to maintain the aesthetic of gritty Silicon Valley visionaries. We burned through every last cent of our savings. The final result? We raised absolutely zero capital. Not one single customer was willing to open their wallet for our product. The engine completely stalled, leaving me utterly exhausted, financially ruined, and carrying a mountain of soul-crushing debt. The turning point in my life, the violent awakening that shattered my delusions, came from the most unlikely source imaginable. It came from my next-door neighbor, a man named Uncle Hung. Uncle Hung never wore a suit in his life. He was a ghost in the corporate world. He always stepped out of his house in faded, frayed protective workwear, stepping into a heavily dented, mud-splattered pickup truck that permanently reeked of industrial bleach and raw sewage. He did not know what LinkedIn was. He did not care about the latest tech trends in Silicon Valley. He dedicated his life to a profession that my arrogant, younger self actively looked down upon: industrial cleaning and septic tank pumping. But do you want to know the agonizing reality? While I was desperately begging my landlord for a rent extension, and tearing my hair out over a sophisticated tech startup that could not generate a single dime, Uncle Hung's filthy, rattling pickup truck was a vehicle ferrying him to collect raw cash every single day. The man controlled a monthly cash flow in the tens of thousands of dollars. While I was pretending to be rich on the internet, he was quietly buying up plots of real estate, building lucrative rental properties, and fully funding his children's tuition at some of the most expensive elite universities in the United States without taking out a single penny in student loans. Uncle Hung was a hidden millionaire. He was a man who owned a genuine, relentless money-printing machine, while I was nothing more than a hollow shell, an empty-pocketed chairman masquerading as a success. That bitter, undeniable contrast struck me like a physical blow to the face. It dragged me out of my fever dream of synthetic glamour. It taught me a bloody, unforgettable lesson. Money has no eyes. Money has no sense of smell. And it absolutely does not care how cool or sophisticated you look on a social media feed. My sole purpose today is to throw you a lifeline before you drown in your own ego. I want to drag you out of that endless loop of spending your real dollars to buy empty, fabricated dreams. It is time to take off the rose-tinted glasses and stare directly into the mechanical heart of true cash flow. The concept of lazy money is not just about leaving your cash to rot in a savings account to be devoured by inflation. It is equally about throwing your precious time and energy into beautiful, fragile business models that are entirely hollow on the inside. Today, we are descending into the gritty underworld of the most tedious, disgusting, and utterly boring jobs on Earth, to prove to you why they are the most impenetrable gold mines on the planet. It is time to stop looking wealthy and start actually getting rich. To fully comprehend how a man covered in industrial grease and raw sewage was effortlessly out-earning a room full of aspiring, highly educated Silicon Valley prodigies, we first have to dissect the psychological poison that keeps you paralyzed and broke. The bitter truth is that you and I were brainwashed from the moment we could walk. We were conditioned by our parents, our teachers, and a profoundly flawed educational system to equate physical labor, dirt, and unglamorous services with failure. You were told that success looked like a corner office, a crisp white collar, and a title that commanded immediate respect at a high society dinner party. Society instilled in us a deep, paralyzing fear of looking ordinary. We became addicted to prestige. We became obsessed with the optics of success rather than the mathematics of wealth. I remember sitting in those trendy downtown cafes, sipping my wildly overpriced cold brew, actively looking out the window at the sanitation workers emptying the dumpsters, and feeling a sickening sense of superiority. I honestly believed I was better than them because I was building a disruptive tech platform, even though my bank account was bleeding dry and I was living in a constant state of low-grade panic. This toxic obsession with status is the exact reason why thousands of brilliant, ambitious young people are currently throwing their lives away in saturated, hyper-competitive digital markets. You are terrified of what your peers might think if you update your LinkedIn profile to say you are the owner of a commercial laundry service, a mobile pet grooming fleet, or a porta-potty rental company. You are terrified of sitting across from your friends at Thanksgiving dinner and telling them you spend your days coordinating fleet logistics for a grease trap cleaning business, while they boast about being junior executives at some venture-backed marketing firm. Your ego is an invisible tax that you are paying every single day, and the cost of that tax is your absolute financial freedom. We would rather be poor and look important than be filthy rich and completely ignored. This is the grand delusion of the modern digital economy. It preys on your vanity. The fake gurus selling you drop-shipping courses and crypto trading secrets know that you do not just want money. You want the cinematic montage of wealth. You want the sports car, the laptop on the beach, and the adoring followers. But real wealth, the kind of wealth that builds family dynasties and buys absolute autonomy over your time, rarely looks cinematic. It looks incredibly boring. It looks like spreadsheets, routine maintenance, employee scheduling, and solving tedious, everyday problems that nobody else wants to touch. Uncle Hung did not possess a fragile ego. He did not care that the cashiers at the local grocery store looked at his stained overalls with quiet disdain, because he knew his net worth eclipsed the entire block combined. He understood a fundamental law of capitalism that our generation has entirely forgotten. The market absolutely does not compensate you for looking cool. It compensates you in direct proportion to the magnitude of the problem you solve. And as it turns out, the most lucrative problems on Earth are the ones that are far too disgusting, mundane, or tedious for the fragile egos of the digital generation to ever approach. You have to make a choice right now. You can either protect your ego or you can protect your financial future. But I promise you with every fiber of my being that you cannot do both. Once you violently strip away that desperate, suffocating need for social validation, the financial mechanics of these repulsive, mind-numbing industries begin to reveal a terrifyingly beautiful efficiency. Let us step away from the abstract world of digital marketing algorithms and venture capital pitches and look at the brutal, unyielding reality of essential physical services. Think about the fundamental nature of demand. When a sleek new artificial intelligence app crashes, users might get slightly annoyed, close the tab, and go for a walk. When a restaurant's industrial grease trap overflows and starts backing up raw sewage into the commercial kitchen on a busy Friday night, it is a catastrophic, business-ending emergency. The restaurant owner is not going to hop on a Zoom call to negotiate a long-term strategic partnership. They are going to frantically call the first phone number they can find, and they are going to pay absolutely whatever astronomical price is demanded to make that disgusting problem disappear immediately. This is the concept of absolute price inelasticity, and it is the beating heart of unsexy wealth. These are not luxury services. They are fundamental necessities for the continued functioning of human civilization. We are talking about waste management, commercial pest control, disaster cleanup, asphalt paving, and industrial waterproofing. These businesses do not need to spend millions of dollars on sophisticated brand awareness campaigns or influencer marketing because their services are practically mandated by law, health codes, and the basic laws of physics. The demand never evaporates. It does not matter if the stock market crashes, if interest rates skyrocket, or if a global pandemic shuts down international borders. People will always produce waste. Pipes will always burst. Buildings will always decay. Rats will always breed. The grit and grime of human existence is the only truly recession-proof sector on the planet. While my tech startup was desperately trying to invent a problem so we could sell the solution, the blue-collar titans of the world were quietly servicing the endless, bleeding wounds of society and collecting massive, unarguable checks in return. Furthermore, the profit margins hidden within the economics of disgust are staggering. When you are dealing with literal human waste, biohazards, or physically exhausting labor, you can charge a premium that would make a software developer blush. The customer is not paying for materials. They are paying a heavy premium for their own cowardice and physical aversion. They are paying you to endure what makes them gag. And because these services are localized, you are not engaging in a global race to the bottom on pricing. An aspiring web designer on platforms like Fiverr is constantly competing with millions of other designers in developing nations who are willing to do the same job for pennies on the dollar. But a flooded basement in Chicago can only be pumped out by a physical truck and a human being standing in Chicago. You are protected from the brutal forces of globalization by the heavy, immovable reality of geography. I started shadowing a few local business owners after my encounter with Uncle Hung, and what I found completely shattered my understanding of commerce. I met a woman who owned a commercial laundry business servicing local hospitals and budget motels. Her facility was deafeningly loud, incredibly hot, and smelled constantly of industrial bleach and soiled linens. She drove a 10-year-old sedan and wore the same gray sweater every day. Yet, her business operated on a recurring subscription model that generated over $2 million in free cash flow annually. Her clients never left because switching laundry providers was a massive logistical headache they simply did not have the time to deal with. She possessed exactly what every tech founder dreams of: extremely high customer lifetime value, minimal churn, and massive defensible margins. She was printing money in the shadows, entirely insulated from the chaotic hype cycles of the internet economy, building an unbreakable fortress of generational wealth, one dirty bedsheet at a time. The sheer repulsiveness of these essential industries acts as the ultimate corporate defense mechanism, creating an impenetrable fortress that no amount of Silicon Valley venture capital can easily breach. In the traditional business world, executives spend millions of dollars trying to build a moat, a competitive advantage that protects their market share from new entrants. Tech companies try to build moats through complex proprietary code, patents, or massive network effects. But in the digital age, these moats are incredibly fragile. A brilliant teenager in a garage halfway across the world can invent a better algorithm over a long weekend and render your entire business model obsolete by Monday morning. The barrier to entry in the digital space is practically zero, which means the competition is infinite, relentless, and completely merciless. But when we descend into the unglamorous underworld of boring businesses, the moat is fundamentally different. The moat is human disgust, sheer physical exhaustion, and profound societal stigma. Think about it deeply. The smartest minds graduating from Harvard Business School or Stanford are not gathering in dorm rooms to plot the disruption of the septic tank pumping industry. Tech incubators are not funding aggressive startups aimed at taking over the local parking lot striping market. The entire ecosystem of elite talent and aggressive capital actively avoids these spaces because they lack the glamorous narrative required to stroke investor egos. This massive cultural blind spot leaves trillions of dollars lying on the table completely undefended, waiting for anyone brave enough to simply put on a pair of work boots and pick it up. Because the digital generation refuses to enter these arenas, the competitive landscape in blue-collar and unsexy industries is astonishingly weak. If you start a marketing agency today, you are competing against thousands of hyper-intelligent, tech-savvy operators utilizing the absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence. But if you start an industrial scaffolding rental company, who are your competitors? You are usually competing against local operators in their late 60s who have owned the market for decades. They still manage their invoices using physical filing cabinets and carbon copy paper. They do not have a functional website, their Google reviews are non-existent, and they take 3 days to return a simple phone call. They have grown comfortable, lazy, and utterly complacent because they have never had to face a hungry, modern competitor. This is the great secret that completely rewired my brain. You do not need to invent the next artificial intelligence revolution to become a multi-millionaire. You just need to bring basic, rudimentary 21st century business practices to an industry stuck in the 1980s. If you take a tedious, dirty business and simply apply the bare minimum of modern efficiency, if you build a clean website, optimize your local search engine presence, implement automated SMS text reminders for your customers, and actually answer the phone with a polite, professional attitude, you will utterly decimate the local competition. You will look like a wizard among dinosaurs. You are combining the unshakable, recession-proof demand of a dirty job with the aggressive scaling tactics of a modern startup. It is the most asymmetrical financial bet you can possibly make. You are fighting in an arena where your opponents are old, tired, and technologically illiterate, while you possess the agility of a modern entrepreneur. This invisible moat of disgust guarantees that you will have the time and space to build a local monopoly without constantly looking over your shoulder, terrified that a tech giant is going to suddenly pivot and crush your life's work. Recognizing this massive, untapped landscape of unsexy wealth is only the first step. The true metamorphosis requires you to completely tear down and reconstruct your financial identity from the ground up. You have to kill the part of you that craves applause. You have to mourn the loss of the visionary tech founder you thought you were going to be, and learn to find profound, quiet beauty in the repetitive, mundane machinery of cash-flowing assets. This is not just a change in strategy, it is a fundamental rewiring of your soul. It is about waking up tomorrow morning, closing the Instagram feeds of people posing on rented yachts, and instead taking a long, deliberate drive through the industrial parks on the outskirts of your city. Look at the corrugated metal warehouses with no signage. Look at the fleets of ugly, dented vans parked behind chain-link fences. That is where the real money lives. That is the architecture of true freedom. Your blueprint starts with ruthless observation. Stop trying to invent entirely new consumer behaviors and start looking for the tedious tasks that people are already desperately paying to avoid. Look for fragmentation. Look for industries where mom-and-pop operators are reaching retirement age and have no children willing to take over the family business because their kids are too busy trying to become social media influencers. There is a massive, unprecedented wealth transfer happening right now as the boomer generation ages out of these blue-collar strongholds. You do not even have to start from scratch. You can acquire these existing, profitable businesses utilizing seller financing or small business loans and step directly into a river of established cash flow on day one. When you evaluate an opportunity, ask yourself the brutal questions. Does this business solve a bleeding neck problem? Is the service geographically protected from overseas outsourcing? Is the work tedious, difficult, or socially awkward enough to terrify the average college graduate? If the answer is yes, you are looking at a gold mine. You must understand that getting your hands dirty does not mean you will be swinging a hammer or scrubbing floors for the rest of your life. You are entering as an operator, an owner, an architect of systems. You endure the grime in the beginning to learn the mechanics, and then you hire, systematize, and scale. You build the machine, and then you step back and let the machine print the money. This path is not for the faint of heart, and it is certainly not for the vain. It requires a level of humility that most people simply cannot muster. But as I sit here today, completely free from the suffocating debt and the frantic anxiety that defined my 20s, I can tell you that the peace of mind is worth every ounce of lost prestige. When you own a business that produces real, tangible value in the physical world, you sleep with a profound sense of security. You stop caring about the fleeting opinions of strangers on the internet because your foundation is built on solid rock, not digital vapor. The glitz and the glamour are nothing but expensive distractions designed to keep you poor. Let the rest of the world fight over the scraps of social media fame. Let them exhaust themselves trying to look wealthy. It is time for you to slip into the shadows, embrace the grime, and quietly, ruthlessly, build an empire of your own. In the end, the ultimate truth about building lasting wealth is completely antithetical to everything modern culture has taught us. We have been conditioned to chase the spotlight, to curate a flawless illusion of success, and to avoid anything that does not look cinematic on a social media feed. But as we have explored, the most resilient, lucrative, and defensible fortunes are quietly being forged in the shadows of society. They are built on a foundation of grease, grime, and unglamorous services that the fragile egos of the digital generation simply refuse to touch. By violently shedding the toxic need for prestige and societal validation, you unlock a massive asymmetric advantage in the marketplace. You trade the fierce, hyper-competitive bloodbath of the digital economy for the quiet, recession-proof monopolies of essential physical services. True generational wealth is not about looking important at trendy dinner parties. It is about securing absolute financial autonomy, maximizing high profit margins, and solving urgent, inelastic problems that cannot be outsourced or digitized. When you finally stop worrying about what your peers think and start focusing on the raw mathematics of cash flow and market demand, you transition from playing a rigged game of vanity to playing the real game of wealth creation. The choice is ultimately yours. You can continue paying the invisible tax of your ego, or you can embrace the boring, essential work that builds an unbreakable financial fortress. Your ego is the single heaviest anchor tying you to financial mediocrity. The free market does not compensate you for how glamorous your job looks. It compensates you in direct proportion to the urgency and necessity of the problems you solve. Real, defensible wealth thrives in the mundane, the dirty, and the socially stigmatized sectors, because the barrier to entry is human disgust, an invisible moat that permanently keeps the hyper-competitive masses away. Start by completely detoxing your mind from the internet's fabricated version of success. Instead of trying to invent a revolutionary app or launch a saturated digital agency, look at the physical world around you. Identify essential, localized problems that people absolutely hate dealing with. Pest control, waste management, commercial cleaning, or specialized property maintenance. Take a drive through your local industrial parks and look for aging, poorly marketed traditional businesses whose owners are nearing retirement. Remember, you do not need to swing the hammer or scrub the floors forever. You need to step in as the business architect. Bring basic 21st century efficiency like simple SEO, a clean website, and automated customer service text messages to a dated blue-collar industry, and you will easily dominate your local market. Choose utility over vanity. What is one boring or dirty everyday business in your local city that you think secretly makes an absolute fortune? Please drop your answers in the comments section below so we can all exchange ideas and discover new perspectives together. If you found value in this content, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to keep producing more deep, high-quality content to help you win.